Love with Ingrid and T.
Alrighty. Do you want to do the intro this time, or you want me to do the intro this time?
I'll kick us off.
Yes!
All right. Hi, welcome to Live, Laugh, Love, the podcast video where we talk about all things libraries.
And books. And bookworms. And
Yes.
things.
I'm E.T. Elizabeth, and that's Ingrid.
And I'm Shelby.
Special guest!
Guest!
So today, because I have Shelby here with me on a little staycation extravaganza,
It is extravagant.
we're going to be talking a little bit about our time at Simmons, because we had a little bit of a different experience.
Yes, we did.
And Elizabeth can chime in because she is currently in library school, so that's fun for everyone involved. And beyond that as well, differences in archiving and MLIS students, and also in jobs, and
Yes.
maybe, if we have time, a third episode about ALA conferences, because I've went to one with you and one with you.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan?
It was great.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
So Shelby,
So Ingrid.
why don't you tell the people a bit about your studies,
Yes.
since you were insane.
Haha.
Mm.
I met Ingrid at Simmons College. We both started at the same time in the Library and Information Science, track, I suppose.
Master's
or
program.
Yeah, let's go with program. But we were on two different concentrations. So
Well, I did more of a general.
yeah, you did more of
studies.
a general library science.
Whatever could fit in my schedule that would give me a master's degree.
And then I did a very specific concentration, which was archives management. Yes.
And I'm gonna brag on you for a quick minute. Shelby also did it in
3 semesters.
3 semesters instead of 4 semesters.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I see you shaking your head, and I agree wholeheartedly. I did it full time while having a full time job, and it was a mistake.
Yes.
Elizabeth is learning from my mistake and is not doing that, and I am very happy for her.
Good. If you can do it that way, that's the way to do it. It's a lot of work.
Meanwhile, Shelby did full time and a half for the 3 semesters that
Yeah.
she did.
Yeah. So on average, people take 3 classes a semester for 4 semesters, and I flipped it and did 4 classes a semester for 3 semesters. And it was a lot of work.
So luckily we met at the beginning of it, because at the beginning everybody takes the same 3 introductory courses, and we took 2 of those 3 together,
Yes.
which meant that we spent 6 hours together a
Straight.
day,
Yeah.
1 day a week, with
And we still
barely
liked
any
each
time,
other.
barely any time to get lunch in the middle.
Yeah.
Lunch.
So you got to know each other pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Well-
that's it's putting it lightly.
Yeah. I mean, we would joke around and stuff, and then one day you turn to me and you're like, so we're best friends now?
I
was
think
like,
that was day 2.
It was
you're
it was day 2.
you're trying really hard to make me seem like I'm not a sociopath, and I appreciate that, but
You're definitely not. You were the friendliest person there in a good way.
also I saved you from the people sitting next to you, so.
That's true. That's true.
So
Hello, people I sat next to.
they're not watching this, let's be real.
I know.
So, what was your favorite class at Simmons?
My favorite class, period. That's a good question. My favorite class that I took was preservation. I think it was technically preservation management. And it was all about the different methods you can use to make sure that things don't deteriorate over time. So it's stuff like light, humidity, all that fun stuff to be preventative, but then also what to do if, say, there was a flood in your library or archive, or something along those lines. So there was some science involved, which was fun. There was a lot of talking about disasters, which was worrying, but it was so interesting. The whole thing was so fun.
Was that the class you took with that professor who flew in?
Yes, yeah, the professor is part of the reason why I love that class so much. She was the coolest woman possibly ever. She was currently, at the time, working at NARA, so the National Archives and Records Administration in DC, and I forget what her exact job title was, but she was basically the head of the emergency response team for NARA. So like anytime there would be like a problem that would involve some preservation or conservation, she would, you know, come in and make sure that everything was dealt with correctly and all that. So she was a badass, but what made it even cooler, am I allowed to say badass on here?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, cool. I'm saying it. But what made it even cooler is that the class took place in Boston every week, and she would fly up from DC to Boston in the morning, teach the class, and fly back on the same day.
Something which will never happen again after this current situation we're
Yes.
living through.
Yes, but it
you
was
lived through an era.
a time. Yeah, so it was like I couldn't have been luckier with the actual like professor and her experience in bringing that to the course. So that's a big factor in what made it very cool.
And then part of your specialization required that you do some work in the field, shall we say?
Yes.
Do you want to tell the people about your fun project that
Oh
you
my
did?
gosh, it was so fun. Yeah, so one of the requirements for this concentration, for the archives concentration, was that each student participated in, how long was the internship? I think it was 80-hour internship. And it's like a practicum, so you actually go into an archive to work there and put your skills to actual use. And I was very lucky, and I was assigned the Boston Public Library Fine Arts Department archives to intern at, which is the coolest thing ever. Oh my god, it was so
I'm
cool.
so jealous.
Yeah. I mean, I'm jealous, and I did it. You know what I mean? It was so
Valid.
incredible. Yeah, so it was in the old part of the library, and in there they have some like hidden back rooms that have all the books that they're still in circulation, most of them, but they're
Or at least
just not
like
on the shelf.
theoretically in circulation.
Yeah, like if someone requested them, they could be brought to them. But also the archives. So the Fine Arts Department archives, what they collected was anything that had the history of Boston and also fine arts together, entwined. They had a specific collection statement like most archives do. And so I ended up working on a cataloging and writing a work plan for a collection of about 100 linear feet of material, which is a lot. It was over 100 like moving boxes of just stuffed with papers. And I went through all that and I tried to organize it as best I could. It was a lot, but it was very interesting because it was the papers and the work by a local artist. She was a Jewish woman who had immigrated, I believe, in the 50s to the Boston area, and she was very active in the art scene there for the remainder of her life. So really interesting stuff.
Dream internship.
Yeah.
100% a dream internship.
Yeah, because I got the like official Boston Public Library badge, and I got to walk in early every morning and like flash it and be like, yeah, I'm here. Ooh.
VIP status at the BPL.
It's all I want. It's
Yeah.
all I want.
Yeah, so cool.
I wanted to ask, what kind of drew you into archives in the first place?
Yeah, so that's kind of a funny story. It started as an accident, but it grew to be a passion. So when I was in... What you laughing at?
I just think it's funny.
It is. When I was in high school, my favorite class was history. I had a great teacher and got me really into it. Loved it, but I wanted a a career path when I went to when I went into college. Like I wanted a major that was more on the practical side of history. So less of like I'm going to be a professor or I'm going to do like research strictly, but something that I could apply to like another discipline. And the college I went to, I decided to major in historic preservation, so like restoring old buildings. So interesting. Would still like learn
That's
a
so
lot.
cool too.
Right? And when I signed up for the major, it turns out that there was an administrative mistake, and I was put into a different major instead.
Yay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so instead they put me in something called public history, which is more about the way you would go about teaching history to the public and building public interest in history. So it's anything from like reenactors to like museum exhibits to archives. And that's what I ended up sticking with. Maybe at the time it was a little bit of laziness, but it was also like interesting anyway, so I just kind of rolled with it, and I ended up focusing entirely on archives, doing some internships in some really cool places while I was in college, and I ended up like writing my capstone project on digitization efforts in government archives.
Love it.
Yeah, very fun. Not a dry read at all. But and then after that, I decided I wanted to get my master's, and that
Shipped
I chose
up to Boston.
Yeah, went to Simmons.
And the rest is history.
Yes. The rest is history. This is correct. I do think we should talk a little bit about like the difference in the degrees that you get and like what it meant for you to be pursuing that degree. So from what I remember, it was a bloodbath to get into the courses that you needed to take.
Yes, it was competitive. It's a small program to begin with. So the SLIS program, the School of Library and Information Science at Simmons, it's fairly small. There's not that many people in it. And then these subsections, like these concentrations, are even more so.
And they only offer the classes that you need, or like certain classes that seem interesting, once every like 4 years?
Yeah, exactly. So
or once every 2 years?
So every 2 years. So you had to hit it and get those classes the first time around, or you're going to be delayed in graduating.
If you're doing it full time.
Yeah, if you're doing it full time. If you're going slower, then you have more options.
And you were going at like turbo speed.
Yeah, so I had to like really sneak in there, and I got very lucky and I managed to do it. I was on a lot of wait lists all the time. But
it did feel like if you were on the wait list though, and you were like determined to not get off the wait list, you would get into that class before the next semester started.
Yeah. And also I think there was one occasion where I was still on the wait list on the first day of class, so I just showed up, and then someone else dropped it. And they were like, well, I guess you really want this, so
it's
take it.
yours.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a pro tip for you if you ever really want to get into a class. But feels a little aggressive, but it worked.
That was true in undergrad as well, I remember. Yeah. If you just fought for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Politely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fight for it politely.
Yeah. But insistently.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Show that you are willing to do the work and you're excited about it. Yeah. So it was so it was a even more competitive like subsection of an already competitive master's program. So yeah.
That happened.
It happened.
And the wait list, is that part of why you recommend like taking it slower?
Yeah, definitely. You have more opportunities to actually take the classes that you specifically want, because there are several classes that fill the same requirement, right?
Yeah.
So like if you're specifically interested in this one course that teaches something like kind of niche, sort of like oral history or something.
Oof.
Yeah.
The
I love
class
that
you took
class,
on
but it
oral
was a
history
lot.
was
Yeah,
so much work. You were.
it was an incredible amount of work. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
But so if you wanted to follow like a very niche like class, then you would have more opportunity if you took it slower to actually get into that class, as opposed to just having to settle for something that isn't quite as like specific to what you want to do, but it fills the requirement.
Which is very different from how I did Simmons, as I'm sure I've told you before, both of you.
Yeah, you told me pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah, but because I wasn't doing a specific track and because I was working full time, it was like whatever fit into my schedule, that's what I was taking.
Yeah.
So my degree was very, very strange. If you actually like break it down by what I took, there's not really a common thread. But I got my degree.
Yeah.
Got that degree, got that job, working in libraries.
Wonderful. Following your passion.
I made it through.
You have to, even before you've gotten your master's. Elizabeth wasn't even done with undergrad when she started working full time with me.
Yeah, I did hustle.
Yes.
I'm saying.
I mean, that's honestly like a huge part of like what makes or breaks like that education, though, is like the more you get actual experience, the more marketable you are when you are actually looking for a career job later.
I always got kind of shocked when people would say that they were doing this degree without ever like working in a library before.
Exactly the same, because it is such a like practical thing. You're going to be doing that work whether you like the theory or not. It's different when you're actually doing it.
Also, I used all of my real life experience as like the basis for everything I wrote, everything I published.
Exactly the same. I think a huge part of the reason I was able to do it so quickly and take more classes at a time was because I already had a few years of internship experience at different archives, and so I had like some experiences to draw from and examples I could use and like ways to connect the theory that's kind of like nebulous and hard to get.
Do you think we should probably stop it there and save that for the next episode that you're going to be joining us on, which is about archiving and library work and how they differ in the actual real world?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening to part one of however many pieces we're going to do, because Shelby's looking for a staycation for a full week, so probably see her face quite a bit on this here channel. But I think that is where we will wrap up this first episode about differences in archiving and library studies, specifically for us at Simmons.
Yes.
Probably applicable to the general field.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
Or at least parts of it.
Yes. We're just chipping away at our own authenticity. Wow. Our own authority over this subject.
Chipping away at our authenticity. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Authority.
I hate that for us. If you have any further questions for Shelby, you can drop them in the comments down below, or email us at liblaughlovepod@gmail.com. We will get back to you. Cool. Thanks for watching.
Yay!